And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back because you wanted more. Folks, great move because we have more for you. Got an incredible lady with us today. Absolutely fantastic stuff she's talking about. I listened to her podcast. I'm sitting here learning stuff, taking notes, and I'm like, wait a minute, I have to get to the interview. So I rushed in here to sit down across the table from this wonderful person. I can't wait to bring her to you today. This is the podcast, folks, that is about podcasters. It's for podcasters. It's done by podcasters. This is where we come together to lift each other up. And this is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's get sailing. Let's bring in our guest today, host of the Create Online Business Success podcast, Tracy Beavers. Tracy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you being here today. Thanks so
Uh,
much.
Thanks.
As we get going, I know there's a lot to talk about. So why don't we start by just tell everybody who is Tracy Beavers and what are you about and what brings you here today?
Yeah, thank you so much. So, I am Tracy Beavers. I'm a business and sales coach from Little Rock, Arkansas. And I'm also a wife. I'm a mom to two young adults, which really kind of blows my mind. That's weird. And being an empty nester is some days it's great, some days it's not. And a dog mom. That's the only child we have left at home is our 80-pound yellow Labrador named General Patton. So he's my favorite little coworker. And I started my journey about 7 years ago when I got fully fed up with my corporate career. I had an award-winning, over 20-year sales career, marketing, business development, and never thought I'd want to go into entrepreneurship. But I just had a couple of final straws on that deal and decided to take my gifts and talents and come into the online space. And I've evolved into what I call a visibility and list growth strategist. So I teach all organic visibility and list growth strategies because the email list and also conversations in the DMs are really where we're going to have the sales conversions and the business growth.
Nice, nice. The empty nester is hitting me right in the gut because I know exactly how you're feeling. How many kids did you have? Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, we have two. Emily
Two.
is 26. She is a police officer here in our city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a mind blower when she walks through the door wearing her bulletproof vest and all of her gear. I'm just like, oh my God. And
Can only imagine.
she's all of 5'4", 160 on a heavy day. And so, but she's amazing. She's doing a great job. She'll be hopefully interviewing for detective soon. I think she'll probably be moved up to detective. And then
Awesome.
Jack is 22. He is living his best life at St. Louis University. He just wrapped up junior year and has a fancy pants internship. So he won't be home this summer. So I'm like, you know, I don't want him living on my couch for the rest of his life, but I also would like to see him more often. So, there's that.
Such a double-edged sword. I know
It
it,
is.
it hits me every time.
I know.
I've got my daughter's 32. I have a son that's 24 and my youngest
Wow.
son is 21. And
Yeah.
yeah, so my youngest just got married and my other two are both engaged to be married in
Oh,
October of this
wow.
year.
Oh
So
my
they're
gosh.
actively trying to kill me. Um,
And
you know,
spend all of your money.
oh, it's just not even going to be funny. So
Right.
if I'm still here doing podcasts in November, it'll be a small miracle. But
Oh, that's so funny.
I feel your pain because yeah, you want them to grow and spread their wings, but oh my gosh, it's like then all you want to do is see them.
Yeah, for
So
sure. For sure.
I
Um,
digress. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. The fun fact, Jack is my podcast manager. And
Oh
so
wow.
when
Okay.
we launched this last summer, he was home and I said, "Hey, I've got a wild idea. I really want to do this podcast, but tech's not my jam. And what would you say to be my manager?" And he goes, "Well, what is that? What do you want me to do?" And I said, "Edit the audio, make it sound awesome, throw it all out into the interwebs and make mom look awesome." And the frustrating part was, the 22-year-old brain, he learned to script in about 15 minutes. It took me over 2 weeks and paying somebody for an hour of their time to show me how to use it. He's over there
Right.
just going, "Oh, you do this and you do this and you do that." And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." So, and the funny part is when I go to, I record the cold open every week. And when I go to record it, sometimes I'm like, "Hey, Jack, it's mom," and he's like, "Mom, I got to edit that out. Stop it." So he thought he
Nice.
was going to get away from me when he went to college, but I ruined that plan.
I see. So he's still your podcast manager, even
He's still
away at
my
school.
Yeah, he hasn't quit. Yeah. And he's actually picked up a couple of other gigs for a podcast agency hired him to do contracting every now and then. So that's pretty cool.
That's a nice little part-time gig. Way to go. All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So, I mean, obviously, very proud mom.
Yeah,
And
very.
What the sales career, I love the way you
Yeah.
talked about it. I read a little bit about you, and
Mhm.
you had that moment where your boss is like, "Hey, great job. You did so well. I'm going to pay you less next year
Mhm. Yeah.
because you made too much money."
Yeah.
I Can you tell me anything more about that? I've heard it a
Can you
couple
even,
times, but I mean,
I
it's
mean, can you even
hilarious.
believe it? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I mean, I still can't believe it. It was 7 years ago. Yeah. So I had been working as a mortgage loan officer, straight sales commission for a bank. And straight commission sales is what I meant to say. And doing really well and doing really well in a very short period of time. And the bank owned a title insurance company that had come into Little Rock de novo, just hung up a shingle, didn't come in by acquisition. So they really didn't have a book of business. They didn't have a market presence. And so they asked me to come over and lead business development for them. So I grew them 86% the first year I was there. And then we were on track to grow another 38-ish, 40%, something like that. And the CEO actually had the nerve, and this is not how he phrased it, but this is what he was saying. He didn't think I was going to be that successful, and he was going to change the commission structure. And come to find out, he was changing it in a way that was going to make the company more money and me less money. And when I read it, I just looked at him and I said, "This is so ambiguous." He didn't realize I had a background in contracts, and that I knew what I was reading. And I looked at him and I went, "This is really ambiguous. This wording is so loose that it's not." I said, "Where's my opportunity for advancement?" He's like, "Oh, you just go get more business." And I'm like, "So you can take it away from me? Okay, that sounds good." I was like, I walked out of there going, "What in the world just happened?" Like, anyway, so
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, well, I can't work for you anymore because, the minute how could I trust that I'm going to go out, build something?" And this is the other thing that I realized. I knew I didn't have any control over my time in corporate. It's 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, 1 hour lunch if you're lucky, so much PTO, all the jazz. But
Right.
I thought I had control over my money because I had commission plans.
Yeah.
And it's eat what you kill. Go out, get it, you get paid for it, right?
I love that. Yes,
Isn't that
exactly.
the way it's supposed to work?
100%
And
commission.
so I
You
stood
got it.
there and I thought, okay, well, I don't have any control over my money either. How is this going to work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hatched a plan to exit, and I did what I like to call a step down plan because I couldn't just quit cold turkey. As you know, because you've listened to my podcast, my husband would have thought I'd absolutely lost my mind if I'd said, "Hey, guess what I'm going to do?
Sure.
I'm going to go make no money for a long time." And, the kids were in high school and middle school playing sports, prom, cars, college on the horizon. I mean, like, we'd worked so hard to make sure that we were on track for retirement by about age 62. And here I was going to monkey wrench the whole thing. And so I told my husband, I said, "I want to build this, but I want to do it alongside my corporate job." And he was on board. So what I did was first of all, I took a little bit lesser corporate job at a different company, little less stress, little less money, but that was okay. Trimmed all of my bills. Like, I went through all the bills that I pay for, and anything that was for me that was fluff, cut. And I was just doing like our retirement, the kids' college, saving for the car. I mean, I was doing the things I had to do. What was my enough number? And that gave me a little breathing room so that I could start working locally with people that already knew my track record, making a little money as a coach, getting some experience, then able to step down again as my business started to grow again, then able to step down again. And so eventually, the last person I went to work for, I am so thankful to her. And I think it's a complete God thing. But she interviewed me. She said, "I want you to come over and do business development." I said, "Okay." I said, "But I really want to be honest with you. When you look at my social media, you're going to see Tracy Beavers coaching. You're not going to see XYZ company." And I hope that that's okay because I'm growing this business. Now I will produce for you. I will do the job you're hiring me to do. And she knew I would. She knew how ethical I was and all that.
Yeah.
She's like, "I'm not worried about you producing." And I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Is this okay with you?" She goes, "Yeah, it's absolutely fine with me." So she didn't care if I did my job, between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. and then worked on some of my stuff for a little bit and then came back and worked on her. She just didn't care as long as the work got done.
Yeah.
So it turned out to be a huge blessing, really.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And so I was able to really save a lot of money that I was making in coaching to smuggle it away so that I could make the investments I needed. And then when corporate ended, I had some money. I had some money in the bank.
I love that story. I mean, good for you, first of all, that when you got that ridiculous contract that you said, I'm leaving, even for
Yeah,
less money.
right.
I'm out because you're ridiculous. So
Hmm.
power to you on that one.
Thanks.
But that's an absolute blessing because people don't they don't get that very often. Usually it's,
No,
wait, what are you doing on the side? What's going on over here?
exactly.
Right?
Right. Right.
So no flack no from anybody about doing this on the side like that is very uncommon.
No. It is uncommon, and that's why I think it was just a huge blessing. But she knew me. She'd known me for a long time, and she'd watched me grow businesses, and so she just wasn't worried. Um, so yeah, it worked out really well, I think.
Very cool. I heard you say almost on accident that it was seemed like a huge God thing. I take it your faith is kind of a big deal in your business practice.
It is. I really believe that I was given these gifts and talents to help people gain clarity, get focus, chase their dream, grow their business. And I just believe that. And I believe that I'm finally doing what he intended for me to do.
That's big. That's really big. You're allowed to talk about that here.
I
Just
know.
so you know.
Well, you just never know. You know what
I
I mean?
know.
Politics, religion,
I
you just
got it.
never.
I've gotten so much hate over the last 6 years with what I do that
Really?
yeah, if they were going to kill me, they would have done it a long time ago. So, the
Funny.
arrows just don't hurt anymore. So I'm like, you know what? You can say that here.
Right, right,
It's all
right, right.
good.
Yep.
But no, I love that because it sounds like you almost feel called to do what you're doing.
I do.
It's
And that,
beautiful.
when I have clients and students feel like that feel like they should not charge for what they're doing. Who am I to do that? That they call it
Oh yeah.
imposter syndrome. I don't really like that term, but it's that doubt that sets in of who am I to do this? Who am I to charge for this? Who do I think I am? That kind of crap talk
Hmm.
that sneaks in. What I want to say to them is, how dare you not?
Hmm.
How dare you not take your gifts and talents and go help other people? Because you have a gift for what you do and your expertise. And that was given to you in the further, and I'm going to preach a little bit, but that was given to you in the furtherance of the rest of the humans that are on this planet. And so,
Yeah.
how dare we not? You know what I mean? Don't hide it
Yeah.
under a barrel and not share it with anybody.
Love it. Absolutely
So,
love it.
anyway,
Do you
thanks.
actually say that to those folks? I'm
I
curious.
do. I do.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. One
All
of the
right.
gals, especially if they're tech people, like if they're tech geniuses, I'm like, tech is not my love language. I don't like it. Can you imagine if you had the cure for me, which is your tech brain, and you didn't tell me that? That's just wrong. It's just wrong. You're just going to let me struggle in Kajabi by myself?
I mean, it's just wrong. That's just all
Just
there's to it. I absolutely love it. So, and I think that's great. I think that the same thing about people who, everybody has a story. And I
yeah.
think that all of us have an obligation to
Yeah.
share our story,
Yeah.
and if you don't, then you're preventing somebody else from learning from it. So I love
Exactly.
that you're on here doing this right now. I think it's
Thanks.
fantastic. So thank you for going there, today and kind of going a little deep, getting that done. That's perfect. So you're called to do this, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now this is you were doing mortgages, and I was in real estate,
Yeah.
so I know what that entails. I kind of get
Yeah.
it. This is a whole different thing. So how did you like learn all of this stuff that you now teach? I mean, where'd that come from? Was this just I figured it out on my own on my phone one day and I became
Oh,
an expert, or
Lord,
how'd you
no.
get there?
No. I can and I'd be totally honest because I'm all about honesty and transparency. I came into the online space a little bit cocky, a little bit big for my britches
Ah,
because I had an over 20-year award-winning sales career. I knew how to build businesses. I knew how to gain market share. I knew how to build relationships, all that stuff. And I came into this thinking, you know, I'm highly educated. I can do this, right? How hard could it be? Oh, okay. Well, reality check for Tracy Beavers. I felt like I needed a decoder ring to understand what the heck language everybody was speaking. I mean, landing page, funnel, Kajabi, lead magnet. What in the webinar? What in the world are you guys talking about? And so there was a learning curve with this. There really was. But fundamentally speaking, most of what I know about marketing and sales and business growth translates directly. We just have to tweak it a little bit to fit the online space. So, networking, prime example. Networking in person, super easy. You walk into the chamber lunch, you've got your business cards, you say, "Hey, Rory, how's it going? What are you up to? Here's my card, here's your card." You're networking. We're building a relationship. I got into the online space and I was like, well, okay, where are all the people? I'm here in my house by myself. How do I go find all the people that I'm supposed to build these relationships with? And so slowly over time, I started to get the hang of it. It's just the locations of some things have changed. So instead of meeting somebody in person, you're meeting them in the DMs, or they're landing in on your email list and you're meeting them in the inbox, or you're meeting them in a virtual networking session, or you're listening to them on a podcast or something like that. So there's a lot of it that translates, but there was a big learning curve. I think back to what Rory, there was a time I did not know how to use Canva. Can you believe it? Like I did not know. I didn't know really how to effectively use Zoom because I never had to. I didn't know. I did not have, this will make you laugh. Such a professional. I did not have a scheduling link. When somebody wanted to schedule a meeting with me, I was like, well, how does next Tuesday at 2 o'clock sound? And they're like, and they might go, that sounds great. Can you send me a link? And I go, I don't have that. I'm a paper planner girl. I'm going to write it down in my planner. And I'm sure they were thinking, who is this hillbilly does not have a scheduling link? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I made it.
Yeah. You did.
I made it.
I would love to pick on you a little bit for that, but I just signed up for my first Calendly ever this past year.
Oh,
I was doing it the Amish way. I mean, like paper pen. So are mornings, afternoons, or evenings better for you?
right.
And it was so bad. It was so bad. My
Well, and
wife
then
finally said, get a Calendly. Oh my goodness, do something.
and then to organize my thoughts, instead of using something intelligent like a Google Sheet or Trello, I literally bought white poster board at Walmart, three big pieces of it, and I had sticky notes. And I would write down the idea and I would smack it on the poster board and I'd walk in through my office and I would smack it down there and I'd keep walking. And then I'd come back and I'd organize them later and throw some out, put some more on, like literally so Amish. I love it. I love that. I'm going to use that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're just talking about. That's what my wall looks like right over here. I mean, that's so funny. What I love though about this story, I gotta be honest. What I love about
Yeah.
this story is that you teach people
Hmm.
who come to you in exactly that state.
Yeah,
So you're not like I've always been a genius who came to me naturally and trying to relate to somebody. You've actually been in the seat where it's like, what am I looking at?
exactly.
So you get it when people are talking to you
Totally.
and you're the real thing, which is really awesome. So
I
congrats
totally
on
get
that.
it. Well, thanks. And also, I'm not above sharing all the mistakes I've made. I mean, for God's sake, I am the girl that would forget to turn her microphone on sometimes when I'd go live. Yeah.
We've all done that at least once.
I'm like, okay, how many years in do I have to remember to turn the mic on? Yeah. So when my students and clients are like, I'm scared to go live. I don't want to be perfect. I've got to be perfect. And da, I'm like, oh no, you just need to watch me for a little bit.
There you go.
You'll feel better.
I love it. When you're the definition of messy action, people will follow that though.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so you teach yourself the stuff. You're self-taught, sounds like.
Yeah. Pretty
Okay, a lot of
much.
this. So you're learning these things, you're putting this stuff together. So how do you build the business that you have? Because it's pretty cool what you have going on.
Thanks. Thank you. Just brick by brick. Early on, so I did join some programs and that helped.
Okay.
Some of the coaches were saying, okay, regular piece of weekly content. That's important. I said, okay, cool, done. Not going to do a podcast because tech's not my love language. I'll work up to that later. And blogs are boring, in my opinion. No offense to the bloggers out there. I didn't want to write that. And I thought I could talk to a brick wall. I'm going to go live. I've been speaking on stages in corporate. That's no big deal. I'm just going to push a button. I'm going to go live. I'm going to talk to people. So that was my regular piece of weekly content. And then to save time, I developed a strategy where you write that one regular piece of weekly content, and everything else you need for the week is born off of that.
Hmm.
Like literally make it so easy. Even the email to my list on Tuesday was, hey, this is what I'm going to talk about live on Thursday. Want to come join me? I mean, I had to really maximize my time and make things super simple. And then figuring out what I wanted to teach people. And it took a while. I started, I did not niche down. I was a general business and sales coach. Come one, come all. What do you need? I got you. I got this over here. I got that over there. It's like, anyway, yeah. So I just started and I started helping people and I realized that my forte really was list growth because over and over, people would come to me and they'd say, I've got this great program and I launched it and nobody bought it. And I'm like, well, tell me about your list. I don't really have one. Tell me about your audience. I don't know if I have one of those. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Right.
Big gap in your marketing strategy here, but we're going to fill it. We're going to make it's going to be okay. So it's just really sort of, I started, and where I started is not where I am now. It's not probably where I'm going to be 5 years from now. And so my business visibility made easy 8-week group coaching program is the focus alongside my elite one-to-one coaching. That was born out of running paid ads and having that be a major fail twice, because the first time I clearly I didn't learn the first time. Um, so, I would try some things and I would see what worked. And then I would keep the things that worked and I would throw out the things that didn't. And then I would try some things and I would keep what worked. And so just just not quitting.
I love that. And you have a private Facebook group too now where
Yes.
you're bringing people in and you go
Yeah.
live in there.
I do. Yeah. And I started that early on too because Facebook was my platform. The only platform I really knew. Back then, LinkedIn was a place where if you needed a job, you went there. Or if you wanted to be recruited for a job, you went there. It's not what it is now. Instagram, I didn't even know what that was. I mean, I'd heard of it, but I wasn't on it. And I was like, oh, I don't need another thing. So I went all in on Facebook and learned about Facebook groups and was really excited about it. There were very few that I really wanted to spend any time in. Most of them were a bunch of women spamming each other, pitching each other, nobody paying attention to anybody, nobody having a conversation, and it certainly didn't feel like a community.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, I'll just build my own. And so I did. And that's where I decided to go live on Thursdays. Now, when I go live, I use StreamYard so I can hit several places at one time to maximize my time. And then we pull the audio to make into my podcast. But when I started out, that's not where I started. I just started going live in my group. And my group has become this beautiful community of support. It's grown into exactly what I wanted, in large part because I attract people that are like us, that are just nice, kind human beings that want to help each other, and want to answer questions for each other and want to network and see how they can support one another. Um, so yeah, it's the biggest source of my list growth by the way we have it set up, and
Nice.
yeah, and it's my biggest source of revenue for the most part.
Excellent. I did. I
Thanks.
listened to one of your episodes and you were talking about that exact thing. It was a few episodes ago when I was listening to it.
Mhm.
And it was about going all in on one platform.
Yeah.
So that is how you started. Now,
Yeah.
is it still Facebook or have you shifted to, more over to LinkedIn?
That's a great question. So, until I hired my first assistant, so for a couple of years, it was just me on Facebook. That was all I had time for. I think I had a LinkedIn profile, but it probably said the companies I worked for. I don't think I looked at it. And then I hired an assistant and we connected my Instagram account to my Facebook business page. So then when you put something on Instagram, it falls into the business page. So we got kind of a 2-for-1 out of that deal.
Hmm.
And then she would take some of my content and she would put it over on LinkedIn. So, and that's what we do now. So you will see me on all three platforms, but it's only because I have an assistant.
Oh,
And
wow.
I am trying
Okay.
to work LinkedIn more often. I really am. But yeah, it's a time thing. Um, I just like to be an example for people that you can build a business that generates well over 6 figures a year, going all in on one platform and getting it to convert for you.
Nice. Well, and your whole sort of motif also is, make it easy.
Yeah,
Don't overcomplicate everything.
no.
So, is that from the way you started?
Yeah, totally. Yes. And I'm still proof of that right now. Like right now I've decided decided a few weeks ago, I think I'm going to do some paid workshops this summer. I've never done one of those. Let's do that. And so I was like, okay. Then I had to talk to myself. I was like, okay, Tracy Beavers, are you really going to do this? Because if you are, you got to don't back down. Don't be a chump. So I made an announcement to my Facebook group members and I said, well, I've gone and done it. Here's the proof. You're the witnesses. I'm going to do a paid workshop this month. Don't have a date set, don't have a time set, don't have a price set, don't have a topic yet, don't have a title, don't have a registration page, don't have the emails that need to go out or the social media posts, don't have a Zoom link for it. Did anybody want to join me? I mean, literally, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing,
So
but
what? Raise your hand comment
I've got,
here. I
yeah,
mean,
just let me know. And I think I I'm being silly. I did say what the topic was going to be. I knew, but I had polled them. I gave them three different things I knew I could teach, like with my eyes shut, and to go June, July, and August. And I said, in several different groups I'm in, I polled them and I said, here's the topics, not final title, whatever. This is probably what you're going to learn in each one. Which one do you like? And the overwhelming winner was um, teaching them how to have conversations that convert, specifically DM conversations that convert. And so I was like, okay, well, I got the topic. I don't have anything else. But I said it out loud. So now I have to do it. And I'm literally flying by the seat of my pants with this thing. Like I set the date the other day and the time. I'm like, oh, June 27th sounds good. We'll do that. 10:30 to 12:30. Okay, that sounds great. And I'll do training and I'll give them some templates and then we'll do some live Q&A. And oh, let's do a little live networking at the end. That'll be fun. We'll do that. And so I'm building this thing as I'm going. But what's been really fun is people are saying, "Oh my gosh, you're walking the talk that you've been saying. You're really doing this. Simple and easy." Oh, the other thing I decided, talking about easy, I was awake last night thinking about Kajabi and how much I hate making a landing page, and I was like, I gotta make a freaking landing page for this registration. And then this morning, a friend of mine shared with me a Google Doc she has as her sales page for her high ticket offer. And another coach of mine, I forgot, had said when she first started out, she used a Google Doc as a sales page for her high ticket offer. There's my answer. I'm not going to make a freaking landing page right now. I'm going to make a Google Doc that has the title, all the information on what you're going to learn, and a link to buy it. And we're going to see how this goes, right? We're just going to keep it easy.
All right. I love that. I'm sure there's 10 more steps on how you're going to connect the Google Doc to the people and everything else, but I'm just kind of going, I love it. It's
I'll
just
figure it out.
it's great. So, that's what I'm hearing the entire time you're talking is you're
Yeah.
walking the walk because you're teaching all your people, hey, start part-time,
Hmm.
work your way up,
Yep.
make a little more, cut back a little bit, make a little more, cut back a little bit.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon you have enough made and saved, you can leave. And then you're doing this. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be tough. So, and even this, it's like, I want to do a paid workshop. So I'm going to do it and I'll figure it out as I go. I mean, that sort of fearlessness is what everybody should have. And I
Yeah.
love that you're living that because, if you're going to teach it and they see you doing it, it's very
Mhm.
believable.
Yeah.
Very,
It's
very
also
good.
going to be a great podcast topic.
Well, for sure. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I would
For
imagine
sure.
most of the things you do are probably good podcast topics. So,
Yeah, especially
yeah.
the ones where I make all the mistakes. The episode I have on perfectionism, I actually went through a laundry list of all the stuff I've screwed up on over the years just to make everybody feel better.
Nice. All right. Now you've built the business. You've been working
Yeah.
on the business for now. How many years has it been that you've been doing your own thing?
I started building businesses 7 years ago, and I didn't start with this one. I actually stuck my toe in the network marketing pool because it was low overhead. And I thought,
Oh,
I'll
sure.
just see what it's like to run a business, all that stuff. And then it quickly morphed into this when I realized the part I loved the most was helping everybody else build their business, which wasn't really smart because technically we were all competing, but I didn't care. I was like, I'll help you build your team. I'll do. Anyway, so I quickly realized that was the part that I loved the most. So that was probably a year and a half in. So 6-ish years ago, maybe 5.5 years ago, I started building this.
Nice.
I'd
Okay.
have to go back and look.
So you've been doing this for a while. I mean, it's been more
Yeah.
than a minute. You're
Yeah.
experienced for sure, and you kind of been through the wars a little bit, which is good.
Mhm.
So last year you decided to go. I'm going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Was it just like the missing piece? Is that what you were thinking, or what made you wake up after 5 years and go, you know what? I still need in my business. I need a podcast.
Mhm.
I got to put this out there.
Yeah. I actually had wanted to have a podcast since like year two, but I just couldn't get there. The tech was really standing in my way. I thought I had to have a fancy microphone, the headphones, the studio, hire somebody in a back room to edit all the stuff. You know what I mean? I thought it had to be this big thing.
Sure.
And I also had so many other things I needed to do my business first. I was already going live, so I had the regular piece of weekly content. I was already building the list, so I didn't really need it right then. And I needed to build my program and I needed to get it launched a few times and all that. So, all that to say, it was this time last year. No, it was, yeah, in the spring of last year. I was so tired of hearing myself talk about having a podcast that I said to myself, Tracy, you either need to do the podcast or you need to stop talking about it because this is ridiculous. I mean, I've been talking about it for probably 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I started doing some research. I even bought a podcast course the year before because the gal that I wanted to learn from, she was running it for like 197 and then she said it'll never be this price again. Next time I run it it's going to be 797 or something. I'm like, "Oh God." So I bought it even though I knew I wasn't ready to do anything with it. I parked it until I was ready. So I started going through that, picked out a name. I already had the revelation came when somebody said to me, because I thought I would go live and then I would have to come in here and record the podcast separate. Duh. Somebody said to me, Tracy, pull the audio from StreamYard and use that for your podcast episode. And I was like, why the heck didn't I think of that? I could have done this 3 years ago.
You're already doing a podcast,
I
basically.
was already freaking doing a podcast. I just didn't even have, I didn't have a microphone though. I mean, like,
Right.
yeah. I mean, anyway, it's amazing I'm this successful sometimes when I look back on some of the stuff that I'm just like, really? You're so ridiculously blonde right now.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, so I thought, oh, okay, that's a good idea. I'll do that. And then I researched microphones and I bought the one, even though I forget to turn it on sometimes, I have it. And then I started looking into editing stuff. And one of my friends said, just use Descript. Put the audio in there, stitch it together, final compilation, pull it out, throw it on Buzzsprout. And I was like, okay, that doesn't sound so bad. And so here we are. I got the name, I got the thumbnail. I just tried to, what I said to I made myself a list and I said, what do I have to get this thing off the ground? Just the minimum stuff: the name, the thumbnail, the content, a microphone, and some editing software and a platform. I was making it way harder than it needed to be.
I was just going to say, you need to take your own advice and just make it easy. But that's a sign of a true coach. When you're telling everybody else this is how it needs to go, and then
Uh-huh.
in your own case, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot to take my own
Right.
advice. So
Yeah. Mhm.
that's a great story.
Exactly.
So I mean, and the podcast is going well. It's a very good podcast. I mean,
Thank
you've done a
you.
great job with it.
Thanks.
Clearly, you know what you're doing. So it sounds good. You got a great voice for it,
Thank you.
and I love the information in the episodes. I
Thanks.
always listen to an episode before I talk to somebody, but if I like it, then I listen to multiple episodes. So I
Oh,
mean, you were
nice.
you were on play for a while.
Oh, thanks. That's
I,
really great.
I liked a lot of your info there.
Thanks.
And I do want to recommend that to anybody who's listening. Okay, check this stuff out because this social media stuff she's talking about is really, really pretty cool. So you want to hear this. A little shameless plug for you right there. But
Thank you.
anyway, so I mean, you've got 55 episodes on the podcast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you a couple of podcasting questions because I know I
Sure.
got to get you out of here in a little bit. You've been very generous with your time, and I appreciate it very much. I love what you did there. You are this social media, expert person. How do
Mhm.
you promote the podcast? Do you do it separately than everything else? And how
Mhm.
do you use the podcast in your whole marketing plan?
Great question. So the podcast is a top of funnel strategy. So one of my students asked me just today, they said, do you feel like a podcast is better than going live or live is better than a podcast? Why do you do both? And that was a great question. And I do both for different reasons. I have the podcast because there's a whole population out there that is not on Facebook. They're probably never going to be on Facebook, but they will find me through a podcast, right? And so then I want to cover the Facebook algorithm. The algorithm loves it when you go live. It pushes you out to new people. So that's why I do both. So the podcast is similar to my social media content. It's a top of funnel strategy. I make sure as a list growth strategist that in the audio of the podcast, there's a call to action to my list. In the outro we've been using since the start is an invitation to my free Facebook group because of the way I have the membership entry questions set up for my free group. People want to give me their email list when they join. So that's a top of funnel strategy to bring in people that they're not ready to come join me in my free group, or they're not ready to friend me on Facebook. They're not ready to make it that. They don't want to have a relationship like that yet. They just want to get to know me, like, who is this girl? I want to listen to her for a little bit, see if I like her, then I'll commit to something else. So I feel like it's a really great way for people to check me out without me knowing they're checking me out, right?
Right.
and they can kind of decide if they want to, pursue anything with me further. So it's a great top of funnel strategy. There was a second question there, and I can't remember what it is.
Well, yeah, it was how do you use it?
Oh,
Was the question. But I mean,
gotcha.
you're answering 90% of it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So we promote the podcast on social media just like we would any other top of funnel strategy. So one of the things I want my students to always remember is they're what I call evergreen content. So you've got your fresh social media content where you're talking about the topic of the week or a tip for business growth or something like that. But you've got some evergreen stuff like your free lead magnets. That's really not going to change much. It's the same lead magnet. Just write a couple of different sets of copy for it, a couple of different graphics so it doesn't look like the same thing all the time. So you can rotate those out. Podcast goes on that list because that's evergreen. It's not going away, but we always want to promote it. Free Facebook group, that's evergreen. So the podcast goes into my social media content just like those other pieces. And
Excellent.
I can't remember what day of the week it is, but you'll see a post about the podcast, maybe with a review and what the episode was about.
Nice. Nice. I love that. It's fantastic. Now, since it's a top of funnel strategy, have you taken any steps to monetize the podcast itself, or is that not part of the overall plan?
That's on the horizon. It's one of the things I listed on my checklist last summer when we were launching was potentially having sponsors. I haven't quite wrapped my head around how to make that happen. And I think part of my problem is it is a brand new podcast with only 55 episodes. And I hate to say it like that because that's a lot of episodes.
It is.
So there's a mindset thing there of, is anybody going to want to pay me money to sponsor my podcast when I got 5,000 downloads total? But I'll tell you what I did recently that as an experiment, again, flying by the seat of my pants. Let's see how this will go. So
Cool.
I'm on Podmatch, love Podmatch. And that's how you and I connected.
Absolutely.
And I was getting a lot of pitches for people to be on my show, which is very flattering, but it was a lot. And I already have guest experts lined up through the end of the year because I'm networking all the time and I'm meeting people. They're having me on their podcast. So we're doing a podcast swap, all that. So that's kind of all set. So I didn't have a place for these people. But I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to change this to on my profile to let them know that there's a guest fee for to be on my show. That'll slow down some of these cold pitches that I'm having to turn down because that did not feel good at all. Not at all. I'm sure you're a great person, but I don't have room for you right now. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, I was like, ugh. So I just decided, okay, well, if you want to be on my show, it's $175. And I've had some people pay it and want to be. I'm like, okay, cool. Because I mean, if it and it and
Wow.
I get pitches in my email inbox too, of the podcast agency that's representing guest so and so who's done all these wonderful things in their life, and I'm like, that's cool. This topic sounds great. We have a $175 guest fee. If that's not a sticking point, let's move forward. So that's how I solved that problem.
Good
Was
for you.
thanks.
Wow, I love that. I mean, that again, just let's throw it up against the wall, see if it
That's-
sticks. I think it's fantastic.
yeah,
But that's beautiful.
thanks.
Because 1 minute the conversation in your head is I only have 55 episodes,
Uh-huh.
and the very next minute it's my episode's worth $175.
hmm I know.
Love the transition. If you could teach people how to make that transition, put that in a bottle and sell it, you'd be rich just from that. You'd never have to work another day in your life. Oh my goodness,
That's
congratulations on
funny.
that. That's beautiful. I love that.
But I still can't talk myself into pitching people to be a sponsor, which makes no sense.
No, none.
Zero.
Well, I mean, and listen, you can definitely pitch people to be a sponsor. Don't worry about downloads and all this other stuff. Take it from someone who's
So,
been doing podcasting a long time.
so Rory, would you
So
like to sponsor the next episode? Just
that's
kidding.
pretty good. You can practice with me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, see, I get sponsors. I'm
Yeah.
not a sponsor. We got to clear that up, but we'll
Yeah.
talk
Yeah,
after the show.
yeah. Okay.
So, I love it. All right, in the interest of time, let me get my corny question in here
Okay.
because it sounds like you've just got all kinds of really cool things. I could probably talk to you about your business forever.
Thank you.
But all right, so my corny question is, when it comes to your podcast,
Mhm.
what is it about doing your podcast that you love the most? And what is it about doing your podcast that you just can't stand, would like to throw out the window and never see again?
Okay, this will shock you. The part I love the most is talking into the microphone because I was born talking. I was the kid on her report card that said, she's a brilliant student, but she talks too much in class. she's a joy to have around, but she talks to her neighbor all the time. And so I think my mom's just really happy that I've finally put that to good use.
That's
So
great.
it doesn't shock anybody in my family that my favorite thing about this is that I get to talk, right? And teach.
Yeah.
So that part I love. And you just give me a microphone and wind me up and let me go. If you can't already tell. The part I don't like would be the preparation of it, like coming up with the topic, although I've got lots of ideas. And on Fridays, I sit down to hammer it all out at one time. So I write the Facebook Live, what I'm going to say, and then I'll write the cold open. But I'll sit there for a second and I'm like, how do I want to open this? What do I want to say? Is it going to, is it going to be like sexy enough to hook them in to want to listen to the whole episode? The show notes, not my favorite thing, although I probably could farm that out, but I'll just keep doing it. So that's the part that I don't really love is the writing of the show notes and that probably because I'm not talking while I'm doing it.
So it's talking and then everything that's not talking.
Right.
Okay. I just want to clear that up. All right. Gotcha. Pretty simple. Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's funny because now your son is your podcast producer. He does
Yes.
the editing and stuff.
Correct.
Okay. So that's why that's not one of your answers, is because you farmed that out already.
I did. I farmed that out
I like
before I
it.
had a podcast
Like
because
that.
we were in he studied in Spain last semester and I remember we were in Madrid and I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to do this podcast thing finally. And you want to be my podcast manager?" And he was like, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" So I had that farmed out before I ever started the show.
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Is there, let me ask you this, because before I get to my last question, and I know I'm watching the time for you, I promise.
Okay.
As I'm looking over everything, I want to make sure we've covered all of your stuff because, I mean, honestly, Tracy, you've got a ton. So I want to make sure
Right.
that you're getting everything out, your courses, your obviously the podcast we've talked about. So before we hit our last question, is there anything that I didn't ask you, anything that we've missed, or anything that maybe we did talk about and you want to like go back and hammer home a little harder before I get to the last question?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've enjoyed this so much. And if I didn't have another interview to go to, we could stay on and talk for a while longer.
For sure. All right. So we got your courses. We got all that out there.
Yeah.
It's all going to be in the show notes, of course. Then I will go ahead and hit you with the last question then, and
Okay.
we'll round things up. So you've been doing this for a minute with the podcast, especially 55 episodes is nothing to sneeze at. The first hurdle is 20, then you get past 50, then it's 100. So, I mean, you pass 50, you're on your way. 100 is going
Yeah.
to be here in no time. And then you're going to get even more people, looking at you, which is great, offering to pay you a $175 fee for your episode, which is beautiful. But as you have done this, and as we kind of round things out, what's your best piece of advice for a podcaster who's just simply not quite where you are yet?
Mhm. My best piece of advice, podcaster or not, is patience and consistency. That's it. Just decide what
That's
you
it.
can do and be consistent with it. So if it, in the example of a podcaster, if doing an episode per week sounds like a mountain they cannot climb, then do one episode per month, two episodes per month. And they don't have to be 30 minutes long. It could be 10 minutes long. Decide what you can do, frame it out, be consistent with it because what the thing I see people making the mistake of is they get really excited about something and they think it's kind of like when you join the gym in January and you're like, I'm going to be there every day at 4 a.m. and I'm going to use all the equipment. I'm going to do it 7 days a week. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, I don't want to go to the gym. We can't do that because then you're going to lose your consistency and your
Yeah.
audience isn't going to be able to rely on you. And so just decide to do the show. Don't be like me and wait 3 or 4 years and just talk about it. And then decide what you can do and how you want to serve and do that. And then be patient with it because it took me a while to get to 55 episodes and over 5,000 downloads. And when I first started out on day one, I was like, oh, is anybody going to listen to this thing but my mom? I mean, how is this going to go? But I thought, you know what? I'm going to take my own consistency pill and I'm going to stick with it and I'm going to see how it goes. And if a year or so from now I hate it, I'll shut it down. But I was going to give it some time.
Nice. Nice. I appreciate that piece of advice for everybody. And I listened to some of your episodes and I heard you say, believe me, I'm not your average business coach. And I got to tell you, you're not. You got something special going on. You really have something special going on over there.
Thank you.
You're just a light, and I love it. So
Thank you.
thank you for coming on the show, Tracy Beavers, host of Create Online Business Success. Go check out the podcast, and your website is
TracyBeavers.com.
excellent, tracybeavers.com. So everything else is there, right? All the courses, the whole bit.
Yeah.
And that'll be in the show notes too. Folks, go check out her website. See everything that this wonderful lady has to offer. She's the real deal. She's earned it. She's told you all about it today. Tracy, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you. Folks, this has been another awesome episode of the Podcaster Nation. Folks, this is the podcast that is about podcasters. It's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. This really is the place, and we proved it yet again today, where the rising tide raises all ships. So keep sailing.